Hi, this is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith with the National Police Association, and this is the National Police Association podcast. I've been thinking about this for about 2 years now, but I knew that I really needed to bring you two of my favorite Texans in the world here to talk about what it's like to be involved in peer support in our profession, what it's like to be catastrophically injured just doing your job, and what it's like to be married to a cop. So we got a lot to talk about. So I want to bring in Tim and Chelsea Putney. And guys, welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about, don't we?
Yes.
So I got to start with this because I always ask everybody who's is a cop, who's been a cop, Tim, why'd you become a cop?
So I became a cop. My sister, I have two adopted sisters, and one was sexually assaulted as a young child. Um, Guy got to see firsthand how the officers worked her case, treated her, made a huge difference in her life. And I said, I want to be part of that. I want to do something like that. We didn't grow up in the greatest area. We had a lot of interactions with officers and never had a bad interaction. And so, one, it looked fun, and two, I wanted to make a difference in others' lives.
So it turned out to be pretty fun, didn't it?
Absolutely, I have a blast. I still do.
So before we talk about your career, Chelsea, I got to ask you, why'd you marry a cop?
I don't think I had a clue what I was getting myself into. My dad's a fireman and had been, my whole life. And so I, kind of grew up in the first responder, household. But I mean, honestly, really, I don't think I knew really what I was, like I said, getting myself into, what to expect. I loved that he would have the ins and outs of what was going on in town, and I liked that part, to just kind of know things that were going on that other people, didn't know, that didn't make the news. And so, but other than that, I just love the guy. So I was like, okay.
So it's been quite a ride. Tim, talk about your injury. I mean, it's an extraordinary story that continues to affect your life to this day. Tell us about that.
So I was at work on July 11th in 2017. I responded to a call of a kid trying to kill his grandmother. We were busy. It was shift change, so I answered the call. I was the only one available. And when I got there, it was just a complete disaster. Um, what I know now that I didn't know before I got there was that it was the first time the kid had ever tried meth, and had the superhuman strength. And um, during an altercation while trying to handcuff him, he had kicked me while I had him wrapped up, and I'd fallen backwards onto a street curb with him on top of me. And as soon as I hit that curb with my back, I had lost a lot of feeling and had a lot of pain in my legs. And at that time, I didn't know how bad it was. I just thought it was like a stinger. Um, Go to the hospital and didn't really get any answers. They kept me for 3 days,
Hmm.
and then told me to follow up with the specialist and release me with no answers. Uh, what we didn't know then was we were about to have the ride of our life, fighting for treatment.
And this is the thing. And first of all, because you're sitting down, so folks can't really tell, but you're not a small guy.
No.
And so when you're fighting, so somebody, a young person, and you think, oh my God, how come you couldn't get control of this guy? Because uh he was just crazy. He was so messed up, wasn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
I've read so much about this, and it was just really crazy.
Yeah, and it was nuts because his family was actually having a celebration. His brother had gone missing and had been gone for a while. They had found him deceased in a shed, in a neighboring county, and that's how they celebrated. They all got high, and what I didn't, and he wasn't a small. I mean, he was 15 years old whenever I got hurt, and he was 6 foot, 200 pounds, just solid. And I mean, he's young.
Yeah.
Uh, I was in the best shape of my life the day I got hurt, and me and her ran marathons. I think that year we had ran 3 already at that point,
Yeah.
and we're training for more. So I mean, he was just, they say that, they have that stupid strength whenever they're methed out, and it's no joke.
So did you go back to work right away when they released you from the hospital?
No, I was not, because I wasn't able to move around very well. I was trying to get back as soon as I could, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to go back to the streets right away because I couldn't walk very well. So I think I was off about a month and a half while trying to figure out and get answers before I went back to light duty. I think I worked light duty as an investigator for about 3 months. The agency I worked for, it wasn't a small agency, but not super large. But the building was not handicap friendly, so there was no elevators. And part of my job as an investigator, we go and check out evidence, to work the case. And one day when I had to go down the stairs to the evidence room. My leg that I was having issues with no filling just completely gave out, fell down the stairs, and from that point on, I was off work until I had surgery a year later.
And there's always this, and we talk about this a lot at the Wounded Blue, which is an organization we're all involved with now. Um, we all think that if we get hurt in any way, our agency is going to take care of us. We're all family, and now I know, and that that's not always the case, is it?
No, not at all. Whenever I went to the hospital, the first thing that they said was, "Well, this isn't an emergency, and there's no neurosurgeons that will do the surgery with the workers' comp." And I'm like, well, that's not why we're at a hospital. Uh, and then what I found out throughout the year legal battle was it was just all about saving money. And I really think they wanted us to give up, and because it would have been easier just to give up and have the surgery, but that's not right. And um, I learned what a true leader is and what they aren't at that point. um, what we learned, I think, the most was just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical, because that's what we were always saying. Well, it's part of the law. We can do this because it's the law. That's just not right. And there was a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, a lot of betrayal, but at the same time, there was a lot of growth between our family during it.
And Chelsea, you're watching this whole thing go down. You've got kids. Um, and again, as a police wife, you're thinking, again, this is my family, right? This is, we've got our little family here at home, but then we've got our big extended blue family. And did you share that sense of betrayal?
Oh, yes. And I think for me, I always had this peace, before his incident, that if something ever happened to him, that we'd be taken care of, that, heaven forbid, something as tragic as him losing his life or just an injury, either way, we would be taken care of. And that, and I feel like what everyone's kind of making it seem like is we were asking for something special, special treatment. And here it was just I just want him to be fixed. And we didn't know for the longest time just kind of how severe his injury, was. And when we left the hospital, I mean, he couldn't get up and walk. And they just said, "Oh, you're just, you're going to be sore. It'll be fine. It'll get better." And, it never got better. In fact, it just got worse. And so, how he said he fell down the stairs at work. He fell in our driveway, just trying to roll the trash, out to the curb, and just all these things. And he had to, start using a cane and walking full time with a cane, and sometimes with a wheelchair. And so it dramatically, changed, to, our family dynamics, just in general, of like everything that we did, we had to really put some thought into. It wasn't just simple like, oh, let's take the kids to the aquarium, or, just these things that we could do before, we couldn't just do. And, it is the doctors, when he went to several different doctors he saw, they just started out simple, wanting like, we just need more imaging. We need to see what's going on, in your back. And workers' comp denied everything that was asked. And so that's when, I just watching this felt so, helpless, seeing him, that just the normal, things that he used to do, he couldn't do anymore. He's just constant pain, and having to sit there and just watch him in this state and feel so helpless. He couldn't speak out in regards into the, with the media. And so I took on that role. I just simply one evening, I was just so frustrated, and I went on social media and made a post of just really just asking for advice. Has anyone been through this? Tell us what to do. We were just having all these roadblocks everywhere we turn around, and can anyone recommend anything for us? At this point, we did just hire an attorney, to help us with the legal part. For anyone that's dealt with workers' comp, it's impossible to do it on your own. They make it that way on purpose. And so, but there's so many deadlines, so many things that you have to meet, and the common person just does not know how it works. And so you can, you basically can kind of get screwed over, very fast without knowing. And so, we did hire an attorney for that. And then, and I went on social media and just made this post for help. And it just kind of blew up from there, where it got, shared a whole lot. I had a lot of some of my friends that were business owners, sharing, and everyone was tagging, everyone in the post, just from the news and just state representatives, just everyone. And so that's when kind of the news reached out to us, our local news, and it kind of, like I said, just blew up from there, sharing, our story, which was at the same time, it's still so hard for us because we were very private people, to begin with. Before this, I wasn't one that posted a whole lot on social media, or just with, look at the food I made, or look at us, at this or at that. It just, I was never one of those persons. And so it was hard to be out there. Didn't know that they could just take pictures off your social media and, broadcast them all over. I didn't know that was possible. So our kids were thrown, in it, which, as a parent, you try to definitely shield them as much as possible. And which our oldest was 13 and our youngest was 3 at the time. So definitely our 3-year-old didn't understand what was going on. But our 13-year-old, those are already hard times in general, being 13 and then going to school and having people, talk about her dad, and, just saying normal rude comments that teenagers do at that age. It was very hard times for just all of us in so many different ways.
So you end up basically in a legal battle with your agency. And you actually ended up going to another agency, but you also got involved with the Wounded Blue, and to the point where now, Tim, you've taken over the peer support team. Talk about the importance of peer support for first responders, especially in this type of situation where you're just feeling like we must be the only ones who've ever experienced this.
It's kind of it's kind of a funny story. They actually, because I was in a very low time when all this happened, and whenever the Wounded Blue came in contact with Chelsea, I wasn't on social media. I was not answering my phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And they reached out to her, and she had made a comment to me one day before she went to work that, hey, somebody's going to give you a call. Make sure you answer it. I didn't answer it. So we were sitting on the couch watching TV that evening, and she gets a phone call, and then she's like, here, phone's for you. And I'm like, what? I don't want to talk to anybody. And so I was kind of thrown into it, which was the best domino effect. I mean, it took a while, but it was the best domino effect for our family. She joined the peer team first, and then about a year later, I saw how much it was helping her. So I wanted to get into it. And the reason I wanted to get into it, because one, it holds us accountable to make sure we're taking care of our own stuff. Not going to be able to help anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself. Um, Two, because of the difference it made in our life. I don't want to say my life because, the Wounded Blue doesn't just have it for the officers, they have it for the spouses as well. Um, she can tell you a lot better than I can, but I know during that time I was not the nicest person. And it wasn't like we were able to vent to each other because at the time I thought I was the only one going through it. She was living her life as what I had looked at, but what I didn't know is how bad she was hurting and she had nobody to talk to. So I think the importance of the peer support team and the Wounded Blue in general is that we're not affiliated with any police department, sheriff's organization. We're completely a third party, not contacted, and we're very confidential. So we're not going to call your agency and be like, "Hey, we talked to Officer so and so. We think he needs help," or we talked to his spouse and she's saying this about her husband and he's got an alcohol problem. We don't do that. We help the officers and the spouses, not only with the peer support, but if they need to find a mental health provider, therapist, we will help find one that is competent in with dealing with first responders in that area. And then officers struggle with alcohol and substance abuse, just like everybody else. And we will help officers and their spouses get into first responder treatment facilities.
And that's huge, right? I talk about that for a minute because just because somebody has a degree, they're a counselor, or a psychologist, or even a psychiatrist, doesn't mean they can deal with first responders, right?
Right. I mean, think about the stuff that we see and we carry. You don't want to go to a therapist who just got on and you start telling her what's bothering you and you're traumatizing her. And then you just see that you traumatize her or him and you're like, oh, great. Now I can't.
We end up counseling the counselors oftentimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And like a lot of times our spouses are better therapists than our therapists because they're used to it. They can take it, but it's not fair to them to listen to us vent all the time. So it's very important. And like, I'm thankful I found a very competent one. And so did she, that you can tell them whatever and they're not going to be phased. And that's what we try to find for these other officers in other states because it's so important. Officers are only going to try something one time before they give up because like when I went, I was told, hey, you need to get help. And so I found a therapist. I was going to go one time, say I did it, and like it's not for me. It didn't work. They don't get it. And it was the first interaction I had where it was like somebody understood and didn't judge me because the way I felt. And I was like, I can go one more time. And now we're 3-4 years into it, and it's the best thing. I enjoy my therapy sessions, and so that's why we try to find somebody that's competent with first responders, because we know they're only going to go once, and if it's not for them, they're going to give up on it.
And you guys have been on this journey for literally 4 years, and now you're at the point where you're both involved in peer support and including in a leadership level. You also teach, you train, you lead sessions, and for the Wounded Blue, and but on a personal and I guess professional level with the job, recently things have changed a little bit with your injury, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. We're back in another legal battle with the city because I needed another surgery. That was part of my injury, and the city was saying, because it had been so long. Friday was our 8-year anniversary of my injury. This started last year, about August, September, and it has been a really frustrating journey again, and it was bringing up a whole lot of memories. Like, here we go all over again. So I guess it was in March. We had done a deployment for the Wounded Blue. We flew back, and that afternoon, Randy Sutton, the founder of the Wounded Blue, called me and he said, "Hey, if you were given the opportunity to go out to Washington, D.C. To have surgery. Would you do it if they could fix you? And, you know, it sounded way too good to be true.
Right.
And at this point, I was torn because I still felt like the city, it's their responsibility to pay for it, but at the same time, I'm getting worse. Like the last few months have been the worst I've felt, even right after I got injured. Long story short, Ring's like, I'm going to get you in touch with this person. We're going to take care of your surgeries. And I was like, wow, okay. I was very appreciative. She and I flew out to DC. We meet with the doctors. They asked us to give them a full week of testing. One thing that has never been done, and they couldn't figure out why, was when we went, they looked at my complete spine from my neck all the way to the sciatic. The only thing that's ever been looked at is my lumbar since my injury. And they start telling us what they thought was going on. They said they would follow up with us the following week once they got the test results back. Didn't realize, I mean, I knew I was in a lot of pain, but didn't realize how bad it was. And they said, we can fix you in 3 surgeries, and we're not going to patch you up until you need the next one. We can fix you. Those are words that we have never heard. And
Right.
so
Wow.
I'm like, this is too good to be true. And then with these doctors, they're very good doctors and very popular doctors. It's like, how long is it going to take to get in? They're like, well, you've been put on the fast track. So are you good to do it? And I think it was 2 weeks. It was really, really quick.
Wow.
Nothing ever has happened that quick. So we actually just got back on the last part of June, the last week of June. I had 3 surgeries set on my neck and more fusions down in my lower spine. Best I've felt. I mean, I had 3 major spine surgeries, and it's the best I've felt after any surgery.
Yeah, it's such an extraordinary story. And in a couple of months, you're going to be heading to Las Vegas to kind of debut the new spring in your step, right, at the next Wounded Blue Survival Summit, where you're going to be, you're going to be running the peer team. You guys are going to be speaking. Talk a little bit about what that experience is like and how it has evolved.
The Wounded Blue Summit is I would say it's a one of a kind training conferences. I go to a lot. I know you've been to a lot, and it's one of the most intimate trainings that I've ever experienced. Everybody's got something in common there. Whether you've been injured, we've all dealt with horrific scenes, and those take a huge toll on us as officers, and our spouses deal with us. So at that conference, we have speakers from all over talk about how to deal with traumatic incidents, or how they've treated traumatic, like dealing with people with traumatic incidents. And then you have the peer team there who's all been there, and I don't want to say been there, done that, because we're still living it, but we're there to support those officers that are willing to take the first step to get help. There's been officers there. I think last year we sent there were 3 that asked for help getting into treatment facilities. They went straight from the summit to those treatment facilities. And it's one of those where, yeah, you're getting training, but also you're actually taking care of yourself as well. I love it. I know my wife loves it. We got to speak last year, and we're speaking again this year of how we dealt with our trauma as a family and the impact it has on your kids. And that's the thing. This training is not just for the officer, it's for the family as well. So they can bring their wife, they can bring their kids. It is in Vegas, but it is a very family friendly event.
It actually saved our marriage a couple of years back, and it was the first summit that we were together, both working for the Wounded Blue. And here we are. We had been helping out the Wounded Blue and been doing the peer support, and we were not doing very well behind the scenes ourselves. We've been struggling with a lot. And here we were listening to another couple up there talking about their journey through her husband's injury. And hearing the whole time, I'm sitting there like, okay, this is my husband. This is what we're going through. He's got so much anger and, because we actually had not started counseling at the point at that time. And that was that evening, I kind of gave him the ultimatum. I'm like, you need counseling and for, me to stay here and keep doing this. And that's what kind of led to our finally him getting counseling. Then me realizing that, okay, it's not just him. I need it too, getting us both getting counseling. But that's what saved us. That it was a lot of unspoken between us, that we were both hurting, but I didn't want to burden him and tell him the things mentally going through my head, that I was struggling and having a hard time seeing him the way he was and him struggle. I didn't want to talk to him, about it. I was trying to be strong. I'm the big one. I'm the one that's kind of keeping everyone together between the kids and him and the home life. I'm trying to keep everything together. And so it's like, I can't show signs of weakness. And then he didn't want to put more on me. He was looking at that, I had enough. And so there's a lot of things that he didn't tell me. I didn't know that, I knew he was struggling on the mental health side, but I didn't know how bad. I did not know that he'd actually attempted, to take his own life at one point. And he had never shared that with me. I didn't know that. And so there was a lot just of unspoken going on, with us. And so it is what just totally, changed our lives and saved our marriage. So, and then it's crazy for us to get to be on the other side and then us sharing our story.
Right. Absolutely. Where can people find more about you guys, about the Wounded Blue Survival Summit, about peer support if somebody's watching this who thinks they might need some help? Talk about all that.
So there's a few ways you can contact the Wounded Blue. Like I said, you can do it completely anonymous. If you want to email the Wounded Blue at woundedblue.org, if you go to the website, there's a SOS button on the bottom left of the screen. You can click that and it goes straight to our email. You can put very limited information that you just need help. And then somebody will email you back and you can do it that way. Or you can call us at 1-833-TWB-HELP. And somebody will answer the phone. We have somebody that answers the phone all the time. You can also message us. Our message from our Facebook also goes to our email as well. And like I said, you can reach out. We're also on the app Peer Connect for agencies that do have Peer Connect. Our entire peer support team and spouses are on the app Peer Connect. So there's several ways you can reach us. The summit is the September 22nd through the 25th in Las Vegas at the Palace Station Hotel and Casino. And we hope that people join us because it will.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always a great time, and it's a really a life-changing event, and a big part of that is the two of you and the peer team, Tim, that you lead. So we appreciate what you do. We appreciate you sharing your story with us and spending time with us today. And if you'd like more information about the National Police Association, you can visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Every day, the brave men and women of law enforcement put their lives on the line to keep us safe. But they need our help to continue their mission. Activist politicians, progressive prosecutors, the ACLU, and the rest of the anti-police forces receive millions in donations from extremist pro-criminal elements like George Soros and woke corporations. The National Police Association is fighting them in courts around the country, including the United States Supreme Court, defending officers who are being attacked for doing their jobs. Additionally, the National Police Association works year-round to pass tough-on-crime legislation to put and keep criminals behind bars. Consider going to nationalpolice.org and donating to keep us in the fight. Together we can win. That is nationalpolice.org.